The Throwback Team has another great episode this week. Join Andrew and Wyatt on Methodology Press, produced by Methodology Books. We're not a news update network. We go deeper because our responsibility is the bigger picture. Before we begin this episode, we ask that if you benefit from our program to please subscribe and give us a like. Thank you.
Florida is where DeSantis's presidential dream goes to die. By Robert J. Whitney. Welcome to Methodology Press. We bring you all the info on the latest publications from Methodology Books. I'm your host Andrew, and I want to introduce my co-host, Wyatt. He's going to talk to us about this book published by Methodology Books.
Hey, good evening Andrew, how you doing?
I'm good. What you got for us tonight? We're looking forward to your updates on the latest publications from Methodology Books.
Methodology Books has a few new publications in the works. There's a new 5-book MAGA series. The first in the series is called MAGA, the Book of Trump, in his own words. The second is called America First. Those who say it the most understand it the least. The third book is MAGA for Making Americans Grossly Abhorrent. The fourth book is called the Janus Quintet, Representatives Comer and Jordan and Senators Graham, Cruz and Rubio. And the fifth and final book in this series is The Two Dimmest Bulbs, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert.
Will we be getting a summary of each of these new titles tonight?
No, not tonight. We will cover each book on its own in future episodes. Tonight we're covering a summary of what's in the book Florida is Where DeSantis's Presidential Dream Goes to Die by Robert J. Whitney. I remember you mentioned receiving some questions about it, right?
Oh, okay. Yes, it seems that some people see the name Ron DeSantis on the book and the fact that he was running for president. Because of that, they ask what's the point in reading the book since he didn't even win the Republican primaries?
That's an excellent question. The author explained the reason for writing the book as the total of everything DeSantis is and represents to this country. We have to remember that he began writing the book in the summer of 2022 and finally completed it in July of 2023. Even though it took that long, it was still finished long before DeSantis dropped out. This is one of the things that stand out about this book. The author presents insights that weren't being discussed in the press in connection to what DeSantis was saying and doing. Also, Robert Whitney presented a good number of bigger picture points concerning DeSantis's agenda and the connection to a bigger movement that's trying to take the United States of America back to its darkest times in history. And he also names some of the other people and groups that are supporting and moving this effort forward.
Okay, great. So maybe we can give summaries of some of the chapters of the book, or previews of the chapters so people know more about it.
You call the segments, and then we'll break it down.
Sure. Let's jump to the section called DeSantis versus Trump. It has two parts. The first part is called First Things First.
DeSantis versus Trump, First Things First. A terrible mistake that many in the news industry make is to compare Ron DeSantis to Donald Trump. The media tends to delight in its own terms and concepts to the point that they repeat it back to their audiences and themselves in an almost endless loop. There have been statements like DeSantis is Trump without this or with that and so forth. This is problematic for everyone except those people who support Trump. They know better. DeSantis is plain old DeSantis and only Trump is Trump. Comparing DeSantis to Trump is, contrary to popular opinion, actually insulting to Trump. You could run down a list of all of Trump's shortcomings compared to all of DeSantis's gifts or assets, and for Trump's followers, he is still head and shoulders above DeSantis. So maybe if we take another look at the two in the same space, we can see that the truth is revealed. Then when you look at DeSantis in isolation and on his own merit, which is the intention of this book, you'll see who and what he really is. But first, compare. People compare their education. They say DeSantis comes out on top in that one. As we will see, DeSantis went to Ivy League schools and so did Trump. DeSantis has the accolades. And Trump has speculation surrounding him that his records are probably horrible. And all the basic comparisons go this way. DeSantis could have passed all his classes with flying colors and Trump could have barely gotten by. DeSantis later proves that he cared no more about the information learned than Trump did. DeSantis is just content to use it to move his life forward. I'm sure he makes use of the information and knowledge learned, but not from the teachers at Harvard and Yale. Trump supporters would probably stick with Trump, like he said years ago, even if he ended up in prison for all the charges intended to be hurled against him. And I believe that even if that happened, they would never abandon him to support DeSantis. Of course, there might always be that few who get tired of Trump, but even then, they might go to another Republican candidate. Other Republican political leaders and many other so-called mainstream Republicans might want to, but they still fear losing the support of Trump's base. They don't even oppose him or wish to go another way because of whatever may be wrong with him as a person or even a politician. When they speak of considering another candidate, they only do so because they don't think he can win. They would pick Lucifer in a primary if they thought he could win. And therein lies another big problem for this country. There are two important differences between Trump and DeSantis that helps me know that even if DeSantis found some way to become the Republican nominee, he would have to try to defeat his Democratic, or whatever party, opponent without MAGA. Love. Oh, DeSantis is a shell of a human being who cares about no one. Trump supporters see him clearly enough to know that he doesn't think anything of them. They know he just sees them as people he needs to convince for support and would drop them like hot coals as soon as he doesn't need them. Steve Bannon busted him when he made the snide remark about Trump's hush money charges. DeSantis was asked a question about Manhattan attorney Alvin Bragg's charges against Trump and basically what kind of support can be expected of him. He made the snide remark, "I don't know what goes into paying hush money to a porn star," but Bannon referred to it as a weasel approach. Bannon saw right through it. He knows DeSantis is also saying, I don't have issues like that because I'm better than him and therefore a better choice for your support. Oh, Trump addresses their humanity. Many people focus on the fact that Trump waited hours before calling the people off from the January 6th insurrection. They say his statements, "We love you. Your very special," show that he supported what they did and wanted them to do it. That's something worth observing, no doubt. What should have also been observed is that no matter what might have been the outcome, he looked at the camera and told every one of those people that he loved them. They believed him and they love him. So, no matter what else can be said about it or him, he's connected with them on a human level. The way he uses them for all his grifts, etc., it's clear he can't possibly love them. Who does people they love this way? Straight up like a man. Oh, DeSantis has, on too many occasions, proven he is a punk bully who either does things and hides his hands behind his back, a la Bart Simpson, and says, "I didn't do it." Or he takes indirect cheap shots like with the hush money comments. DeSantis tries to man up when he knows that the ones he is oppressing or attacking are powerless to do anything to him. Oh, Trump comes at most things more directly. It seems that if Trump had participated in torture at Guantanamo Bay, he would have owned it and said why he did it. People would have had a field day with his answers, but his followers appreciate the way he does things. Trump reminds his followers of a man and DeSantis reminds them of something less than that. Even though we've seen Trump come up with 1,000,001 excuses when cornered, outright lies, they still see him as an example of manhood. This doesn't absolve Trump of the fact that he is a coward and bully also. It wouldn't surprise me if Trump supporters leave DeSantis out to dry if for any reason Trump is not the Republican nominee. Regardless of Ronnie's many stunts to try to impress them, the fact that he can't contain himself and just give their leader the honor of running without his opposition is proof enough that he's only for himself.
Robert Whitney mentioned in that section that the mainstream news media has a disconnect between Trump's followers and their views of DeSantis. Tell us about that.
The media tends to follow the money. They saw where the big money was being invested and did the same thing they did with Trump in 2016. They covered DeSantis like he was the next big thing. What they failed to realize is that for the people on the ground, he was just an empty shell with some level of intellect. Trump's followers were never looking for someone who is not Trump and is not Trump. Remember when the media was constantly repeating the phrase, "Trump without the baggage"?
Yeah, all the time. What about it?
Robert Whitney was trying to tell the media and the rich donors that the people, Trump's followers, were not looking for that. They never viewed anything about Trump as being a deficit. What others viewed as flaws his followers viewed as virtues. It's hindsight to the press and big donors now, but when the author penned the book it was insight.
Now, the segment that you read about how the media responded to Trump saying he loved the insurrectionists. They reported what he said, did they not?
Yes. But here the author is pointing out where the people who want to preserve democracy constantly miss the point. Trump repeated a lie to those people and had everyone in his team repeat the same lie over and over to his followers over and over, non-stop. You notice that we use the word followers instead of supporters, right? The people who want to save democracy should have started the clock as soon as he was officially out of the White House. Then they should have repeated every single day until now the fact that Trump did not pardon nor bail out a single one of them.
As you were reading that segment of the book you also mentioned the comparison between Trump and DeSantis in educational accomplishments. Wouldn't people be more impressed with the one who excelled in that?
This is where it gets interesting. I don't think Robert Whitney is intending brutal criticism towards the media at large. The problem is that they have a trade and a craft, and like all trades they have modes of thinking and doing things. Let's use auto mechanics for example. They learn the skills, and when they have to make repairs they use what they know about cars. Let's imagine we're in a time when a car had to be lifted by 5 men to take the tire off. This is something people could become accustomed to doing for a million years. Then one day someone on the sidelines who understands physics or just the impact of levers invents a jack. Journalists also have their language and methods of approaches to their field. Unfortunately, journalists have gotten used to expecting certain speech and behavior of the subject instead of enjoying the beauty of exploring and learning their subject. They compared silly Trump to serious Hillary and had no doubt she would win. In fairness, she did win the popular vote. The people who would vote for him weren't regarded. Along comes DeSantis, and whether a person is Republican or otherwise, they hope he'll beat Trump to bring some sanity back to things. Again, the people for Trump were not considered in the equation. The author was making a clarion call that DeSantis would have been worse than Trump because he knows what he's doing.
Yes, definitely. In the book we're talking about, Florida is where DeSantis's presidential dream goes to die. The author discusses that point. DeSantis removed elected officials from office in Florida and actually said he would look to see how much of the government he could run by himself. In Trump's case there are organizations waiting in the wings to use Trump to do exactly what DeSantis could do by himself. So yes, he's more dangerous than Trump. Well, Wyatt, it seems that the book uses Ron DeSantis as a representative of a bigger issue. DeSantis seems to be the so-called intellectual, but artificial version of what some people already want for the country.
That is the case. In this book, Robert Whitney covers everything from woke to CRT and DEI to ESG. These are some of the tools Ron DeSantis used to bring attention to himself so he could get elected. The author was asking the society to slow down and stop narrowing their view to DeSantis and Trump as individuals trying to get into office, but two types of men who represent direction a segment of the American population wants the country to go.
Thanks for sharing that segment of the book with our audience, Wyatt.
Hey, you're welcome. It's an important subject that deserves attention and a book worth reading.
That's all the time we have for this episode. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons if you found benefit in our program. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Wyatt. Good night.
And I'm Madeline. Thank you for joining the Throwback Team for this episode of Methodology Press, produced by Methodology Books. Stay tuned for our upcoming episodes and publications. The 5-book MAGA series is coming soon. Good night.